I think when we had our first call, I mean, I remember that call really vividly, and I just felt exhausted. I just felt really tired, and I think I sort of can see myself on the video, and I think I just looked like I'd been run over by a truck, probably.
So, welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have Brandon O'Neill on, one of my current clients. Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, a bit about you?
Yeah, no, thanks, Luke. Yeah, Brandon O'Neill. I'm an American living in the UK, late 40s, couple of teenage kids. I'm a lawyer, married for a long time, practiced law in New York for a while, and then I've been practicing in London for more than 10 years now.
Nice. So, as always, by all accounts, a busy man.
Yeah, yeah. There's always a lot going on between family and work, and had a lot of change in my life the last couple of years. So
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, as we discussed just offline, I think the best place to start this chat, as always, is to rewind a few months into the past, and you might want to go back a little bit further. But I think you'd seen some of my content, maybe on LinkedIn, or maybe an old colleague's post, reached out for a chat. What was going on for you back then that made you thought, right, I want to have a conversation with a coach, somebody like me?
yeah. I mean, I think it's a couple of things. There's sort of more of a long-term thing probably than more of a short-term thing. I mean, I think the long-term thing for me was just, I think like a lot of guys that I've met in the program, I mean, very busy life, very demanding job as a partner at a law firm. And I think just over time, just neglected, exercise and nutrition and just kind of more focus on well-being, in favor of working really hard and, trying to look after my family and all that kind of thing. And I mean, I always really enjoyed my job, but I think I got it out of balance probably. So that I think had been going on, a kind of steady sort of weight gain and just, not in sort of great health. And then I think more short term was just, I had a lot of change in my life. Like I said, I was at one job for about 18 years, and then I left that and joined a great law firm, a different firm. But that was a big change. It was a lot of change for me. So there was a lot going on with that. So I think I was just sort of feeling a bit disorientated, sort of more in the short term. And then, yeah, I saw some of your content. It was probably you jumping into an ice bath, in your underwear. But, uh, but yeah, I mean, I just, I sort of I liked the kind of approach and had seen people post on LinkedIn about it and thought, I'll just give it a try because I think when we had our first call, I mean, I remember that call really vividly, and I just felt exhausted. I just felt really tired, and I think I sort of can see myself on the video, and I think I just looked like I'd been run over by a truck, probably.
Yeah. And what you're describing, I think, is like you said with the guys in the program, but more generally, very, very common, which is going full tilt at work and trying to push that really hard. And it doesn't come from a malintentioned or bad intentioned place. Quite the opposite. You want to be successful. You want to provide. You want to, achieve the things that you want to achieve. And that's all really important. But more often than not, that starts to come at a cost to your own, just physical and mental well-being,
Yeah,
which then bleeds into how you're showing up at home, at work, and for yourself, really. And I think it's one of these situations. It's not like, one day you're perfect, the next day it all goes pear shaped. It's like a sort of slow, insidious creep where all of a sudden things start to drift, and then you get to a point you go, "Oh bloody hell!" I've gone a bit far from where I used to be and where I would like to be.
yeah,
Like you said, you're feeling exhausted. It's quite hard then in the maelstrom of life, work, kids, the whole lot to go, right, what do I do? And it can feel, I mean, these are my words, not yours, but almost insurmountable. And you're just like, I'm knackered, I'm tired, I know I want to be better. And you're not doing it like, because you're a dick. It's like, because actually, I
well,
know I want to be better,
opinions on that would differ, but yeah, go on.
but, you know, it's not like a conscious choice to sort of be feeling like that, but it feels like you don't have the autonomy or agency to change it. And that can feel like quite a negative feedback loop, right? And like you said,
Yeah,
feeling exhausted within that.
yeah, no, I agree with all that. I mean, I just, I think you almost kind of wake up and at least for me, I mean, I kind of just turned around and thought, oh my God, like this has been, it's exactly what you said. I mean, it was kind of just a very slow, almost kind of unnoticeable decline. And I think when you work a really busy job like that, and kind of busy home life, like there isn't much space left if you don't carve out that space. Like the demands on your time will suck up all of your time if you let them, and again, in some ways that's great because, you want to spend time with your kids, you want to spend time with your spouse. Like I said, I always really enjoyed my job. I always found it really exciting, and I always was really interested in the work. So you can kind of let that happen, and it feels positive, I think, in the moment. But over time, like it kind of just starts to take up all your space. And I think for me, I just kind of didn't have any space left to, you know, look after myself.
Yeah, it's that cliche phrase, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. But I think in the modern parlance, it's like all work and no well-being sort of put you into the floor. And it's ultimately you wanna have all the things you're describing, like be a great dad, be a great husband, smash it at work. But I think there's a point at which if you aren't taking care of yourself underneath all of that, you start to get a law of diminishing returns and it doesn't serve you. And I think some of the old practices that may have worked 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago when you were younger, you try and run some of those things right in your life right now, and because you've got a whole different set of circumstances, more responsibilities, it doesn't work. I often hear guys go, "I'm older." I always fuck all to do with age, to be totally transparent. It's your life and the circumstances that you're in which impact your ability to do things, and that is very, very real. And so, because you've got all that going on, I think you have to look at things slightly differently. But that's also where you can get stuck in a trap. Well, I used to do that and this doesn't work, so I can't be fit, healthy, happy. It was like, well, you can. You just probably have to look at things with a different lens, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And I mean, I know we're going to come on to talk about sort of learnings and stuff from the program. I mean, thing that has surprised me the most, and I've said this to my wife several times, is just like doing better and sort of improving all this stuff. Like it is available, and it always was available. It always has been available. Like it's not like when I started making progress, it was sort of like, I had to smash through a mountain or something. Like it was just there, and you can just go and do it as long as you're sort of doing the stuff that works for you. And I think that was the biggest surprise to me in the sense of like, thinking about it now is that it was there and always available, and I just didn't focus on it enough and spend the right time on it and do the right things. So in some sense, like, it doesn't make me regretful, but it kinda makes me think, "Well, I could have done this, a while back," but that's neither here nor there, that is what it is. But in some sense, like, it's there today, it's there tomorrow, like, as long as you kind of I know in the group we've talked, like, I've sort of said quite a few times about having that sort of toolkit that you can turn back to, when you need it or if you have an off day or, whatever. But that it's sort of always there for you, and I think that's been surprising, but at the same time it's really reassuring because it is just there. It's sort of simple in a way, right? Like all this stuff there, if you just do it, it's just a question of whether you do it. One of the great things for me has just been, you got this kind of toolkit, right? That's just this different stuff that you can do. And when you do have an off day or a couple off days, because that stuff is going to happen, like sometimes your eating's just not what it should be. Sometimes you can't make it to the gym or you're on the road or you're sick, whatever it is. Like for me, sort of having these things that you can kind of turn back to, you know, as a kind of foundation and think, okay, well, I've had a bad few days, but if I just get to the gym and get 10,000 steps in and eat right, then I know I'll get back on track. And I think for me in the past, it's been more like, if I'd have an off couple days, then I'd be off the rails for a few weeks or something. And now, if I have an off day or two, then it's kind of, I can turn back to it, much easier. And I've just got these sort of foundation points that I can go back to. And as soon as I do that, then I'm back on track.
Yeah, I think that's really important to recognize because I think more often than not, let's say you're in the place that we were describing a few months back, right? And you feel like, right, I need a better routine, better discipline habits around what goes in my mouth, how I move my body, how I manage my stress, my phone use, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it can feel like, well, there must be this one magic routine that I've got to stick to. And then if I do that, it'll all be fine. I think trying to have a inverted commas perfect routine is as fragile as having nothing because it needs to be malleable and flexible with the demands of work, life, the universe, right? Because things are going to happen that are out of your control. And I think it's also learning the art and the skill of being able to go, well, there's a suite of things that I need for me generally day to day to help me look good, feel good, and show up well. Depending on the circumstances that life presents me, it may compromise my ability to do some of those things. And so can I be flexible within that and adapt to what I'm doing? Or work as ballistic and some of them drift and you almost know they are, but that's it. Well, then how quickly can I course correct and get myself back to doing the things that are
Yeah.
important? But I think if we've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
a plan that we have to follow that's perfect, and there's
Yeah.
filled with stuff, and some of it drifts, it can feel almost impossible to get back to it. And I think that you hear me a lot. It's like there isn't like a wagon we jump on and off. There is no plan necessarily. It's a continuation and being able to sort of be resilient to what life presents us with and deploy what we can in amongst that. That's kind of, I think, where the magic and the sweet spot is. And in that, when things in inverted commas go wrong, rather than going, "I'm a piece of shit, stop," or "I can't be arsed, or I can't do it," we go, "Well, why?" And a lot of the time, you'll know this in the calls, Brandon, not always, but a lot of the time, it's me going, "Calm down, it's not as bad as you think it is. Actually, there's
Yeah.
valid reasons as to why that happened. What can we do?" And then we learn from it. And then if it but then as a more meta skill, if you start to learn how to do that yourself, well, then you can go,
Yeah.
"Oh, bro, I feel a bit rubbish, X, Y, Z." "Okay, why?" "Oh, well, work went ballistic and I had to work late. I was out last night and so I drank a bit, so I'm feeling a bit fuzzy. And actually, because work's been late, I've been on my phone constantly every evening." "Right, okay, I want to correct that. What do I need to do today to bring that back online?" And then that's it. And then you're off to the races again, right? Versus, "Oh, if I'm not following it all perfectly, I may as well do nothing." And that's where a lot of people can get stuck, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And like I was saying before, I mean, I think for everybody, I think for everybody on the program, certainly for me, you got to find the combination that works for you. Like, I mean, from the calls, I mean, I'm a true believer in the calorie counting app. I mean, I feel like those guys need to be paying me because I am constantly preaching how much I love that thing. But for not everybody, I think, uses it, and not everybody feels that way. But for me, and I think it's probably, I'm a lawyer. I'm a kind of rules based thinker. Like, I need some kind of like framework around this stuff that I can sort of operate in, and that kind of gives me a framework, and it gives me, sort of rules that I can stick to in a way that just works for me. Like, if I know, okay, this is my calorie budget for today, and I track that, then it works. Then I feel better, I look better, I lose weight. I that kind of is like my anchor point, sort of, and I do the other stuff around it, the exercise and the steps and mindset stuff and all that. But for me, that's such a big deal, and that in particular for me has been a revelation in terms of, when I first started using it, I didn't realize the calories that are in certain foods and the amounts of calories that you're eating when you eat whatever it is. I mean, we've talked about this on the group. I mean, I'm a sort of fiend for dried mango. I think it's amazing stuff. Love it. Would eat it by the bowlful. Have eaten it by the bowlful. But it's huge. It's so high in calories. So now I still have it, but I eat four little pieces, and that's kind of like my dessert. I still enjoy it, but I don't sort of cram it in by the fistful. And that I just never realized that until I started using that. So for me, that in particular it's a kind of anchor point in terms of giving me a structure, but it's also been so informative. And it's so informative when you go out and now, for example, like, I go out for breakfast with my wife regularly. Like, it's kind of a thing that we do. If I order like a big breakfast, I won't get the hash brown anymore. I'll say, "Give me extra mushrooms," or "Give me extra tomato," or whatever. So it kind of, because I know that actually in that hash brown, you're getting a lot of empty calories, and I'd rather eat, some more vegetables now. So I think that's been something that I've really used as a kind of information tool that for me. And again, some of it sounds obvious. You think, "Oh yeah, obviously, dummy, a hash brown's gonna have a lot more calories than mushrooms." But until you kind of use it, at least for me, until I used it and put it into practice, I didn't ever think about it that very much.
No, and that loops back to what we were saying near the start, where you're talking about you kind of you don't know what you don't know, or it's all there for the taking if you can see it. Um,
Yeah,
like you said, not everyone tracks calories. It's not for everyone, but for some people it can be very, very helpful, and it gives you like a sort of a binary way to operate. But what that's done as well is it's not neurotically tracking calories. It's empowered you to better understand what you're doing, so then you can make conscious and informed choices around what you want to do. If you're blind,
yeah,
you're like, there's nothing morally wrong with a big bowl of dried mango, but equally, it will have an impact on certain things. And if you want to achieve certain things, it's been able to understand what that means and in the context of what you're trying to achieve. And so you can now go, okay, well, I like dried mango. I could have a bowl of mango. I'm not a evil person to do, but then that will impact other things that I want to achieve. And for you, not everyone, but a lot of guys want to lose a bit of weight. Well, if you want to do that, well, then it allows you to make an informed decision around that. Like you want to go out and have a nice, breakfast with your wife. Of course you do. Again, well, how can you balance that with having a nice time with your wife, but also achieving the things that you want? And I think some people go, well, I can't do anything fun or any, a fun event are often seen as like these battles to overcome. It's like, no, go and do that. But then you can make
Yeah.
some conscious choices within that. So you still enjoy it, but it's just moderated. But then it's all about being empowered. And if you want to have a day where you go, balls, I'm going to eat what I want, you can do that. But then you also
Yeah.
understand the impact that can have and what you need to do around that, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And I think that applies kind of, in the immediate moment, like if you're going out for a meal, then you can make better choices around that. And equally, if you're looking across, a week or 2 weeks or whatever, you think, okay, I know on Thursday I'm having an absolute blowout. And so fine, I'm gonna go and this, you're always stressing this in the group. Like, don't deny yourself the things you want to do, right? Like if you're gonna have a blowout with your friends or you're gonna go to a work party or whatever, go and do it. But then you'll have to adjust some other days around that. So okay, fine, I'll go and have a blowout. The next 5 days after that, I'm gonna pull it back and really sort of tighten it up because it lets you kind of recover from doing that. So you still got to do the thing that you want to do, but it just means that you're more conscious about, okay, I've done that. Now, how do I sort of stay on track and not have a blowout followed by another 5 days of, of just, indulging in whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's that concept of there are no solutions, only trade-offs, right? But it's been able to do it within a framework that fits you and you're comfortable with. Um,
Yeah.
and rather than trying to pretend it's something that it's not, it's like just being embracing that. And I think if you're able to do that, and that can work for calories, it can work for managing your stress, it can work for putting your phone down, it can work for alcohol, it can work for a multitude of things. But having that mindset of going, well, where am I at? What do I want to achieve? And at some point, you always have to pay the piper, right? And so it's like, well, within that, where am I comfortable doing that? But again, that speaks to that if you've got this hyper rigid way of doing it, and if you deviate from that at all, you've ruined everything. It's like, no, let's just take a step back and be more holistic. Like at work, right, with your stats and with business and stuff. Like if you had one off month or off day, or one of the clients didn't do something, and you wouldn't go, right, you sacked, let's start again. You go, okay, well, how can we actually let's look at this relationship more holistically. Actually, it's trending in a pretty good direction here. There's a few things we need to work on, and it's having that kind of mindset for yourself, because none of it needs to be perfect, but if you're empowered and understand the impact of the things that you do have on your life at whatever level, well, then you can make
Yeah.
decisions for yourself. And sometimes it's like, I'm going to do what I want. And that's also cool. But if you do what you want all the time, it doesn't always end very well, right? And so it's been able to balance that
No,
perfectly.
yeah, no, exactly. And I think when you do it as well, I mean, what for me, when I've done the stuff that works for me and I do it consistently, I just feel so much better. So yeah, I mean, you fall off the rails a couple days here and there. That happens. It happens for me. Like I think it happens for everybody. But that's fine because you've got these tools you can use to get back on track. You just feel so much better. So yeah, you got your off moments and that's fine. But just as you're saying, like you can see over time, okay, yeah, I had a couple off days, but then I got back on track and progress has continued. So it doesn't derail it. It doesn't derail you, and the proof's in the pudding. Like as long as you turn back to that, then it's fine. You just keep going, and so you can have those moments, and you can. I think you sort of enjoy it more, because well, this is kind of a planned break from what I'm doing. You get a bit of relief and fun and whatever, and then you're back on track. And generally, you're going to feel much better. I certainly feel much better.
And one way I like to think about it is it isn't like we're on a plan that stops, right? It's your life. It's going to go on
Yeah,
forever. And I think we want ways to be able to behave, feel, look, operate that serve us now and long term. Now, within that, there might be a season of yourself or life, whatever, where you want to specifically achieve something. It might be weight loss for some guys. It might be, actually, I want to really work on my relationship and put some effort into that. Or it might be, I want to be more present at home, or it might be I want to manage my stress better, or I want to achieve this at work. Well, okay, if that's more of a driving focus, some of the other things outside of that, we might need to compromise or balance appropriately. And so it's not like you do something for a bit and then we just stop. It's like, no, no, because well, how does that work then? Well, what do you do once you stopped? Like,
Yeah.
it needs to be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
continuation, but it's all relative to where you're at and what you're looking to achieve. Um,
Yeah. And just on that, I mean, it just, one of the big things about it all is just the group of guys, because one of the most helpful things is just having this forum where you can exchange on WhatsApp and on the group calls with other guys who are in, more or less the same situation. Like, everybody is a bit different, obviously, and there's sort of guys certainly younger than me on the program, or the kids are younger, or there's different careers. There's a lot of entrepreneurs, which I think is really interesting. There's also a lot of lawyers, I've noticed,
you got to
and
my
other
best
sort
to be
of
fair.
service. So it's like everybody's kind of in the same boat, in the sense that that they were doing things not in the way that they really wanted to do them, whatever that means for them. And they wanted to do something different with themselves. And so they have the same problems, like, that you have. And I think when you hear somebody say, "Oh, I've got this issue that I'm trying to fix," and you think, "Well, shit, that's the same issue I've got," it gives you a kind of, it gives you like a comfort, I think, that, okay, yeah, it's not just me, and there's other people in the same boat. But also then you can kind of just bounce ideas off of each other, and, oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, and just sort of support each other. So having that, that group, that network of people who, feel similar about these things that you do, that's really helpful. And just having you sort of facilitate those discussions, I think, and having each other support each other, that's been a huge, huge part of all this for me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I'm incredibly biased because I run a group program. But there really is huge power in that. And I talked to guys. There's a guy last week who was like, "Yeah, it sounds great," and then he'd missed the fact it was a group thing. So I had my call with him, and he's like, "Oh," and it freaked out, and he decided not to move forward. And he's like, "I think I need something one to one." And I
Right.
get that, and I do one to one coaching as well. But for the stuff we're talking about here, and I have worked with probably getting near thousands of guys in this process or up there. Um, that group element it powers up what we're trying to achieve, and I think sometimes I don't mean this in a belittling way. In the place that maybe you were at when we first spoke, it's just me. My problem's unique. I'm special. I need this magic
Yeah.
routine to fix everything, and it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
not true. It's totally not true. And like we discussed, the exact application for you in your life and exactly what you want to achieve is unique to you. But there's
Yeah.
commonality
Yeah.
across the board in that. And
Completely.
bit I think that some guys miss when the group bit sounds scary is what you've just said there. Hearing others and that they're struggling with something that's very similar to you, far from it being one pity or Schadenfreude, I can't say it right. Like it's oh God, it's not just me. He has that too, and it almost gives you license to go take a breath. But then if you're the same person working through it and working on it, well, maybe I can do a bit of that. Oh, actually, he's doing that. That's tripping me up. Well, what about this? And so for me, like that really speeds up the process of what we're trying to achieve. I've said this to people before that I might have been working with somebody one to one, and this is actually a few years ago now. Why I pivoted into the group parks, I noticed that I might be having a conversation with a guy 2 3 weeks in a row, one to one, and kind of getting there. That same chat on one group call, bang, it's done because you have this kind of shared experience. But it's one of those ones. It's hard to sort of really explain until you feel it. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
when you're in there, you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I get this now." And
Yeah.
then also you might think that, very pretty senior guys, entrepreneurs might not wanna share. And like I said, it's not we're all sitting around crying into our cornflakes, but actually being open about the problems you're facing and with men being very solution oriented off the back of that, I think that's a very
Yeah.
important place to be, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think it is an open group, and people are really supportive and positive with each other. And I, some of the stuff is not. It's just small things. Like, there's a kind of there's just every so often people will just post in, "Oh, here's a small win for today. I got up at 5, I hit the gym, made my kids breakfast, and then I was off to a good day at work." Like, that's in and of itself just one day. It's not like some major event, but everybody sort of supports that. And if you put something like that in a group and you just think, "Oh, I did my stuff today and I feel good about it," like, everybody sort of supports that and it's like, "Oh yeah, well done." But I think then if you see someone post that in the group, you sort of take energy off of that, right? And you think, okay, yeah, good. I need to do that. Okay, I had a
Yeah,
bad day today. Tomorrow's going to be,
yeah,
I'm going to do better tomorrow. So you kind of can really feed off of that, I think, and it kind of just keeps it going. The group thing is a big part of it. I mean, if if any of the millions of people listening to me waffle right now are kind of worried about that part of it, for me that's a huge aspect of all this. It's really really a big part of it to just know, there's other people out there who have the same sort of struggles that you've got, and are helping to find ways to overcome them. That's a big thing.
yeah. And even even as a coach, like I'm on some pedestal. I'm in the thick of it like everyone else. I'm just like you guys. Um, but in me coaching you guys, but being in that process, I feed off and learn from that as well. And sometimes
Yeah,
it's, I need to take some of my medicine here. There's other people working through that, and I think that's why it's so powerful.
yeah.
What would you say then, Brandon, as we sit here today? If you were to could pick one thing, would be your key takeaway or learning from having come through this process so far?
To be honest, I think it's what I said earlier. I mean, my number one thing is just it's available and always has been available, because that for me is kind of like there's no, because I think like a lot of guys in the program, I've tried different stuff in the past. You tried coaching. I ate vegan for 6 months and then vegetarian for a while, and I actually gained weight doing vegan because I found the diet was so restricted that I'd get hungry, but then I couldn't eat various things. And again, because of my sort of rules based brain, I could do it within that framework. I could eat vegan, but then when you're hungry, you're just having toast and pasta and whatever. And then I actually gained a bit of weight. So I think like a lot of people, you tried all kinds of different things over the years, because there, even though you were kind of what we were saying before, you were kind of focused on other stuff. I did know I need to do a bit better on this. And so you kind of dip your foot in this, that, or the other, but it never sort of took. I mean, nothing ever really took for me. And I think this sort of combination of things, again, whatever kind of combination you assemble that works best for you, like it's just there. Like you can do it today. You can start it today. You can start it tomorrow.
Yeah,
And I think that was a real revelation for me, in the sense that you didn't have to do. You didn't have to do anything. In the sense that, you didn't have to go to boot camp. You didn't have to, invest in some massive piece of equipment or whatever. Like it's just simple stuff. But if you just do it in the right combination, it's just there.
yeah. Yeah, because I think on that, I'll often speak to guys and go, "I need a reset. I need to kick up the arse." And I was like, "Well, that might be true, but it's not the case. You need to look at doing things differently, and it is, you've got your body and an open mind. No matter how busy and crazy life is, we can make things work. And I think that it's really empowering then, because you realise I don't need to be stuck. And I love what you said about you can start tomorrow. Because another thing, an objection, a lot of men might be like, "I'm too busy. It's flat out. Now is not the right time." There is no right time, and it's so cliche to say, but it isn't. Life's always going to be busy. You're always going to have a to-do list that long. There is going to be no point in the future when the debt's clear and you've finally got it sorted. Because the bit that
Yeah.
there is that, okay, in a month's time when it's calmer, if you haven't changed anything, why would it be any different? Like you
Yeah.
to change to make a change, right? Um,
Completely. And I would even say it a little differently. Rather than saying there is no right time, I would just say this is the right time. Like whatever is happening, like this is the right time. It doesn't matter, because whatever you're dealing with, and whatever sort of struggles you've got and stress and whatever, like if you eat better tomorrow and you get your 10,000 steps in, say, just do those two things, like eat well and walk, you will feel better and you will deal better with whatever shit is piled on top of you. And that's available. You can just do it. Like you don't, so and it sort of goes into some of the mindset stuff, right? Is like, this is the right time, no matter, it doesn't matter, because when you do this, again, this is my experience. When I do this stuff, I just feel better, and I deal with stress better. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm better at work. Like my mind is clearer. Like, so it's kind of like, in some sense, thinking there's a future time to start, I think is backwards. It's kind of like, no, no. If I think I can do it in the future, then actually that really means I need to do it now.
Totally. Well, If someone was sitting listening to this and they were in that position you were in a few months back, and they were that person going, "I'm going to start in a month," what would you say to that person?
The biggest surprise and, happy surprise has been that it's at your fingertips now, and it's simple. It's not to say it's easy, but it's simple. And if you just start doing it now, you will see progress and you will feel better in on all fronts. And it's just there. Like you can just go and have it.
I couldn't say that better myself. So thank you, Brandon. It's been a great chat. I really appreciate you taking the time. If anyone is watching or listening and they're interested in having a chat with me about how I can help and what I can do, drop me a note in the comments or find me a DM. Brandon, I think you're a legend. I really appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for everything. And I mean, I think I've spoken to a couple guys who are thinking about it and have joined the program. So equally for me, I mean, if anyone wants to get in touch with me on LinkedIn and just hear my experience, I'm happy to talk about it because, it's been a really, transformative thing for me.
Thanks, Brandon, and I really appreciate that. On that note, guys, have a fantastic week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.